So this is how we call this place. This is Poddymoor Heath.
Poddymoor Heath.
So yeah.
Got tactics board out as well.
I'll show you tactical work while you're here.
Was it El Mohammadi or Neil Taylor who was running alongside? You know when Albert was allowed to walk through and score. I swear it's one of them, and they were I swear he was desperate for him to pass the ball to him.
Yeah, he wanted a goal, didn't he? It annoys me that though, because people always forget and they never show. 4 minutes earlier, in front of the Villa fans, Stewie Dallas had gone down injured. Villa had the ball in the final third, and Conor Hourihan put the ball out in front of the Villa fans and got battered by the Villa fans, by the way. Put the ball out, and then 4 minutes later, same thing happened.
Yeah, it's just mad.
Yeah.
Oh, go on. Are you good to go then, Dan? Yeah? Right, okay. Which camera are we starting in? Does it matter?
I love Villa, you love Villa.
Oh, right.
So that they've got a song to it for the Villa. So that's their flag. When I was on the coach, whether it was when I was playing for Leyton Orient or whether Brentford, whenever I passed Villa Park, I'd always look at it and give it a little nod. I felt I'd earned it. I'd earned the right to be, a manager of a top club in the Championship at that time. But I also had a discussion with the family as well. Listen, I'm in the shape for the Villa job. I said, let's see what's going on. He said, what's to think about? It's the Villa. His session plans were the neatest session plans I've ever had, and used to give me great pleasure each night changing the colours of his pen tops just to see if he'd done it wrong the next morning. One of my team talks where I had the most clarity, the players were all a bit down. I just lifted it. Whoa, what are we down about? We're still in this game, 1-0 down. Once we'd won that game, there was a feeling that, this could be it. I know I'm fast forwarding a little bit here, but, when penalties came up at West Brom, he was Marco Jackson back down into the dressing room when the penalties came about. He didn't want to take one. I mean, I probably felt most nervous before we played Blues for the two games because I knew what it meant to so many. I didn't want to be the manager that lost against Blues.
Yeah. First game back at Villa Park, Sheffield United, do you think it crossed the line?
It definitely crossed the line. When the watch didn't work, my mum to this day says, that was your dad. That was your dad. I don't believe in stuff like that. That was your dad.
Did you know we were going to win that day?
Yeah. No, I did. In my head at that time, if we played Derby on a neutral ground 100 times, we would probably beat them 95, 96 times.
Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Claret Blue podcast. We have got our dream guest. I don't want to make him blush too much before he even starts, but this is a big deal for us. Modern day hero, lifelong Villa fan, one of our own. The fella who got us believing again, got our club back to the promised land. The legend that is Dean Smith. Thanks for joining us, Deano.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me on.
So you're in Poddymoor Heath rather than Boddymoor Heath. Couple of nods to your era as well. I don't know where we've had those 32 red Luke Roper shirts from, but I reckon they're probably worth a few quid, those are, to be honest.
I bet they are. I've got a couple myself.
But yeah, so we've managed to capture you while you're over for Christmas, away from your MLS duties. There's so much to go at, but I want to tell the story, obviously, of your time at Villa. But before that, I want to talk about how that job came about and how your love of Villa came about. So can we take you right back to the beginning, which is a little football mad Dean Smith with a big brother who's probably kicking him around all over the place. When did you become conscious of football being something that was, brought you so much joy, I suppose?
The first thing I can remember is football, to be honest. As everybody knows, my dad was a big Villa fan. Me and my brother have got a picture. I think I'm about 4 years old and I've got like an old Villa kit on. And he's next to me, taller, with a Villa kit on, and we've got a ball in front of us. And it's one that we look at quite often and go, remember them days, just running over the school, over the back of us, having a game of football, always with the Villa kits on. And where we lived in Great Bar, you were either Villa and West Brom. There weren't much Blues there. It was Sandwell area kind of thing. So it was either Villa or West Brom, but it was mainly Villa. My dad used to go down the pub and the Red Admiral, and that would be Villa and West Brom as well. So there was always that kind of rivalry growing up. But until you actually start going to the Villa and understanding that there's a Villa Blues rivalry as well. But yeah, so from a young age, it was just football. Me and my brother just playing all the time. And, I'd probably actually credit my brother a lot with me making it, because I think playing with him and his mates, who were 2 years older than me, helped me grow up very quickly and become better at football.
So I think I think I read it was like a Gorse Farm school that backed onto where you were living, and you were climbing over the gates and stuff. So born in the early 70s, who would you have been? Which Villa player would you have been? Like Big Ken McNaught when you were playing around, or was it someone more glamorous like Golden Boy Gary Shaw?
No, my first Villa hero was Andy Gray. I was gutted when he left to go to Wolves. One of the first games I remember when he scored the hat-trick against Liverpool, the 5-0 up at half-time, I think it was, on an evening game. So he was my first one. And I remember sitting in Trinity Road when we signed Didier Sis and played against Man United. He's beaten 3-0, 3-1, something like that. So me and my brother used to go with two of my best mates as well and go and clean the seats. Used to get a free pie and a drink afterwards, and Dad would seat us wherever we could or stand us up the old end, and then we'd have to go and meet him after. So then with my really early thoughts, I remember being in junior school, I think, and my teacher was a Villa fan as well. Yeah. And my mum decided that we'd have my birthday party as like a school outing to a Villa game, and I think there was about 12 schoolmates, my mum and my teacher who came as well. My mum treated her, and so going to Villa at that time, it was amazing as well.
And just so happened that one of the European Cup winning legends, even though he didn't get on the pitch at Rotterdam, Pat Hurd, just lived over the road, didn't he?
He did, yeah. He moved in over the road when he joined Villa. I think it was the year after they won the league. And we quickly got to know him. My dad was very sociable, so he gets to know everybody very quickly. Pat, Sue, and I think it was Simon they had at the time. And my mum ended up babysitting for Pat and Sue, when they'd gone over for the Rotterdam trip.
I've heard two stories. One about you spending a bit of time in the company of the European Cup when the Herds brought it home.
Yeah.
And two, you managing to get on the kind of parade bus. Are those both true?
Yeah, both true. Yeah. So, I think each Villa player got to take the European Cup home. Pat brought it and took it down to Red Admiral. And I think he slept with it on the night. So, got many pictures of standing next to the European Cup in his house, and and then when they'd done the celebrations in Birmingham, me and my mates, me and my neighbour were there with my brother, and Pat saw us and got us on the bus, and it was incredible, just riding on the bus with the lads around Birmingham.
So at what age did the prospect of you playing professional football for a living kind of first kind of surface, like realistically in your head?
I think 13, 14, I was always like, that's what I want to do. I think my school reports will be saying, he does okay, but his mind is into football. And, I think at that time you used to have a careers advisor, didn't you? And you'd sit down, I want to be a footballer, at school. Come on, we're at school here. It's education. That's where my head was. I mean, I actually worked when I finished school for a little bit. My dad's friend worked at a powder paint company called Postans, was it called? In Aston. So I actually worked for about 3 months there as a lab technician. I used to cycle in, clock out, and cycle back. But then Walsall came along and offered me a trial there. I went for the trial. Stan Jones was in charge of the trials at the time, and then after the trial, I fancied myself as a midfielder at the time, and he went, you play centre-back, and I played centre-back, and then he offered me the opportunity to play for the youth team then on the Saturday against Port Vale. And then they offered me a contract after that, and I ended up being a YTS there at Walsall.
This paint factory thing fascinates me because...
Postans Paint it was.
Is it still there?
No, it's not there anymore.
Did you ever, when you were driving to Villa Park on match days, did it ever, I'm sure you got enough to occupy your mind on a match day, but did you ever kind of take yourself back to think, pinch yourself and think, this is weird?
Yeah, I mean, do you know what? When I was on the coach, whether it was when I was playing for Leyton Orient or whether Brentford, whenever I passed Villa Park, I'd always look at it and give it a little nod. More in hope that would end up. I knew I was never with where Villa was when I was a player. I was never going to go and get to that level. I'm proud of what I did as a player, but I was never at the level of being a top player. Still not retired though for England, so I'm still available.
Did you ever have trials at Villa? Did it ever come close, or have you ever played at Villa Park?
No, never played at Villa Park. Never had trials at Villa Park. No. I was actually a schoolboy at Newcastle. Would you believe? Pat Hurd went to Newcastle, and Pat thought I had a bit of talent and took me up there. And then I ended up signing schoolboys. Pat ended up leaving. I think Jack Charlton took him up there. William McFall ended up being the manager. And then I ended up as a schoolboy. And I remember being really gutted because I used to enjoy going up every school holidays and playing. And then unfortunately they decided to take only players from the Northeast East region. So, I went back down and that's when it was like, right, okay, let's see what happens now.
Do you think that Newcastle trip as a young man kind of helped shape you as a character? Because obviously you went on to become a captain at several clubs, and then the management thing, and we'll touch on your kind of man management and your journey soon. But do you think that was almost kind of character building, being away from home that far for a while?
15 years old, going up on the train, getting met by the Newcastle staff. I used to stop in a guest house in Whitley Bay and, have a walk down and have a go on the slot machines, overnight. But, being that age, you're probably happy that my parents allowed me to go and do that, because not many would. I mean, I remember meeting a guy we met a couple of lads on holiday there once, and Mum and Dad let me go up at 15 years old on the train from Birmingham, Digbeth, up to Glasgow to go and watch Celtic Rangers. I'm like, really? Why did you let me do that? But they loved their football. They knew we loved our football, and they trusted us. So, I think that helped me, grow up a little bit quicker.
So let's talk. I mean, I'm skipping half your career here, but we'll have to, this ain't
half of it's forgettable.
This ain't a Leighton Orient or a Walsall or a Port Vale or a Sheffield Wednesday podcast, so they'll have to get you in their time. But the management thing then, and I hope this doesn't sound patronising, but how important do you think your kind of everyman qualities are in terms of whether it is a Premier League footballer who earns X amount of money, or whether it's a tea lady, or whether it's one of your old mates at the paint factory? Do you think that's helped you, the fact that you've got that kind of people person kind of characteristic?
I think definitely. The 5 years I had as an assistant coach at Leighton Orient probably helped me. I was probably more emotional as an assistant coach than I was as a head coach or manager. Because I realised that my job was you've got less control, but it was one of my best mates, Martin Ling, who was the manager, and I wanted us to be successful. And we got promoted my first year as a coach, and really enjoyed it. And he let me have full reign on coaching and training. He was more of a match day manager. So I, tried a lot of things. Some failed, some worked, but it was a great learning experience for me. But dealing with players, and being allowed to deal with players the way he allowed me to become probably the coach that I became. But then personnel skills are so important. Our jobs, and I don't care, our jobs are to get the best out of players. And there's different ways you can do it. Tactically, you've got to be switched on if you want to be at the highest level. But you've also got to know what makes them tick to make them better as well. Because you make them better, you make the team better.
I'm fast forwarding quite a bit here. So you've obviously, you've got the gig at Walsall in the youth team. Then you made the manager there. Have a great season, kind of rescuing Walsall, I suppose. And then one thing leads to another. Brentford, you're carving out a real good niche as a bright young manager. Then I wouldn't say all of a sudden, because there's a lot of work that goes into that. But let's fast forward to you coming to Villa as manager. Then what's the first inkling that you get that you're in the frame for that?
There's quite a funny story about it. So Brentford played Leeds away, and it was the early game. It was an international break that was coming up, and I think Steve had been sacked in the week leading into that game, because I think Kevin Mack took the game against Millwall.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So Villa were playing Millwall on that Saturday, so they were after the manager. And I don't believe I'd been linked with it, but people, even within some of the players at Brentford, they knew I was a Villa fan anyway. You know, I think we'd beat Birmingham 4-0 and their fans were singing at me at half time as I was walking off the pitch. I don't know how they all knew I was a Villa fan at that time, but so we'd played Leeds and I always give them a couple of days off. We were due to train on the Tuesday, but my wife was having an operation, so I couldn't go in on Tuesday. So I said to the lads, listen, you're off till Tuesday. I won't be in Tuesday. I'm not going and taking the Villa job. I said, my wife's having an operation, just as a bit of a laugh and a joke with them. So that's what we literally did. And then, I got a phone call on that Tuesday, to go and meet Christian and Suso to, possibly take the Villa job.
Because I hope you don't mind me saying this, probably a bit egocentric of me, but I got a phone call from you around that time, and I'd never spoken to you before. Knew your agent a little bit, and because I'd done a piece saying, forget the glamorous names, you don't need Thierry Henry's va-va-voom when you've got the answers staring you in the face, kind of thing with Dean Smith. Not just the Villa thing. Look at the credentials that this bloke's got, basically. And I had a quick phone call with you, and I remember saying to you, why are you doing this, mate? It's kind of, it's a bit. It can be a career killer if you look down all those Villa managers.
Yeah.
It can. And I think you said something to me like, "Why wouldn't I do it? Why can't I be different?"
Yeah.
And is that the attitude that you took into it?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I said this at the press conference when we got the job, and I felt I'd earned it. I'd earned the right to be, a manager of a top club in the Championship at that time. And I felt I could go and handle it. But I also had a discussion with the family as well. My wife, my two kids, because I knew my son had just gone to America. So it was probably a little bit different for him, but my daughter was at school, and I knew that would change her life at school. If you get beat, then your dad's crap. When you win, your dad's the best thing in the. So I knew how it would affect them, and once I had a chat with them, and they were all for it, then I was all for it as well. And I remember when I'd got We'd had the interview on the night, and I was driving down to Windsor, and which is where I was living at the time. And I phoned my cousin, who was in the States as well, and said to him, "Listen, I'm in a shout for the Villa job." I said, "Let's see what's going on." He said, "What's there to think about? It's the Villa. He's a Villa man. It's just the Villa. What's there to think about?" I went, "It's all right you saying that, Kev. I've got a family here who, it's going to affect massively. All our family are Villa fans. If it doesn't go well, it's pressure, big pressure, and disappointment as well for everybody." So, there was a lot of things that I had to think about before going and taking it.
What's that meeting with Christian Purslow and Suso like then at the Hyatt Hotel? I mean, we've not even offered you a cup of tea. Did they get you? Did they get you a drink in?
No, I don't think they did. To be honest,
I'm in good company then. That's right.
I think it was just in a room, and it was like, all right, freshen out. Right, this is what we're looking for. What can you offer? And I generally asked them, I said, go on then, what are you after as a club at Villa? I know you two are new as well, coming into the club. What the club after? I don't think there were at the time you could say there was a philosophy what Aston Villa is about. It looked like to me that it was right. Let's get promoted and let's see what happens. It becomes a bit of a frilly word, doesn't it? Philosophy. You've got to win games as a manager. You've got to be successful, and then you earn the right then to bring the players in that you want to bring in to shape the team, and shape the team in the way that you want it to go. So, it was a long discussion, mainly all about football, what I could bring, what my backroom team would be, how it would look. And it was a good chat.
You mentioned backroom teams. That's just triggered a question in my mind. So you've got Richard O'Kelly, who's for a long part of your managerial career was your right-hand man. And then you got John Terry, obviously got a little spell at Villa, but famous for Chelsea and England. Said to you before the cameras started rolling that Richard O'Kelly is the most black country, down-to-earth fella in the world. I'm sure I've met John Terry a couple of times, he's a lovely enough bloke. But how was it? And because there's that famous photo of the unveiling where have you seen it? It's become like a meme, really, where you're all laughing your heads off.
Right.
Can you remember what you were laughing at?
I ain't got a clue, to be honest. Probably JT's trainers or something, and like why we all haven't got a pair of them or something. No, I mean, it was interesting. I remember the discussion and in the hotel room, and I said I wanted to bring Richard O'Kelly with me, and I'm not sure they knew who Richard O'Kelly was, if I'm honest. But he's so integral to what I was about at that time. We spent 4 years together at Walsall, 3 years at Brentford. And he was integral to everything that my coaching journey had been as well. So it was so important that, he was coming with me. And I remember Christian saying, would you think about taking in somebody like John Terry? So that's when John Terry was mentioned. And I said, well, if I didn't take John Terry, would that hamper my chances of the job? Yeah. And he went, good question. Good question. But no, I don't think Christian Suso knew that I had a relationship with JT already.
Right.
So I'd coached his brother Paul for 3 years at Orient, and JT used to come in, and so we would see JT quite a bit. And I spoke to JT that following morning, and pretty much interviewed him on the phone, and just said, if I put you out there now and go and do a coaching session, could you do it? And he went, not sure I could, but I'm willing to learn from you and Richard. He said, I was in that dressing room last season. I know the players, but I'm humble enough to know that I need to learn an awful lot. And what a quick learner, by the way. He was really, really good. And I think it worked straight away, just how he looked up to us at that time. But would lean on Richard for support on sessions and how we were building the sessions, what we were looking for to get to the game on the Saturday. It just worked really well. They got on really well as well.
I thought, because I remember being at your unveiling press conference, and it struck me then that, I don't know, I mean, again, this might sound a little bit pathetic, really, because you by then you'd already got a good body of work as a manager, but I thought the way that you handled the JT things, it was almost like this little bit of a sideshow going along. And you said this phrase, something like, how are you getting on with JT? You said, he's rocked up with his pencil case or something. And but it wasn't Patrick, it was just, it was very much, I'm the boss here, but it wasn't patronising to him.
Yeah.
And I just thought, this isn't the John Terry, main event with Dean Smith bolted on. Dean Smith is going to run this.
Yeah.
And John Terry is going to, I don't know, fall in line sounds too hard, but John Terry's going to be a part of this.
Yeah.
And you're the boss. Does that...
I mean, I wasn't looking to do that. That was probably just a little bit of my humour because, JT's got he's a little bit anal. We used to have his pencils lined up. His session plans were the neatest session plans I've ever had, and used to give me great pleasure each night changing the colours of his pen tops just to see if he'd done it wrong the next morning. But I loved working with JT. His enthusiasm for it, how he went into the job and pushed himself. The defenders learnt so much from him. He's very high standards, so I wanted to tap into his knowledge of working at the top with the top managers and top coaches, being the serial winner he was, but again he was still there looking to learn from myself and Richard as well, and he was great. I mean, another big one was we actually managed to get Neil Cutler from West Bromwich Albion as well. He'd been my goalkeeping coach at Walsall, and I managed to get him in, and he was another one. Got him really well. He knew me and Richard really well, but he got him really well with JT as well, which helps.
Do you think with the likes of yourself, Richard, and Neil Cutler, were you consistent in the way that whether you're at Walsall, West Brom, Leyton Orient, whatever, or whether you're at Aston Villa and that big swanky training ground at Poddymoor, was it effectively the same job?
It was the same job. It was the same job, the way we go about it. Obviously, every job that you have, you're learning from the last one, and with the experience that you have. And my career was like that, wasn't it? It was like, Walsall in League One, well, Leyton Orient in League Two, Walsall League One as the head coach, and then Brentford Championship, Aston Villa Championship, then Premier League. So it gone on like that. So it was taking them experiences into the dressing room, but treating people how I treat them every day. Not being indifferent. They're still humans at the end of the day. So walking into that dressing room and, introducing myself to them, speaking to the likes of Jack, Alan Hutton, Mile Jedinak. I remember a funny story when I left Mile out of the team, and I got JT to go and pull him for me. And I used to get JT to sit in the meetings with me, and JT said, "Really, you want me in this one?" Because Mile's got that look about him, And we sat him down. I said, "Mile, listen, at the moment, I don't see you playing in midfield for us because I've got, John McGinn, got Conor Hourihane, Glenn Whelan, I dropped Jack in as an 8 at that time as well." And Mile stroked his beard and kind of looked at me. He said, "Well, where do you see me then?" I says, "Well, at the moment, we've only got 2 centre-backs. I see you as, that third choice centre-back." He went, "Yeah, I know where I am. Thank you." And he was brilliant and walked out, and JT went, "How did you do that?" I went, "Listen, players just need to know what you're thinking, so you can give them a little bit of clarity as well." And it was a really good conversation. Funny enough, I bumped into Mile in Mere Green the other day, walking with his kids, and what a great guy.
I won't go through every game, I promise, but the first game, Swansea at home, I think Tammy Abraham scored the winner, if I remember correctly.
He did.
And might have been Doug Ellis. I think Doug Ellis
passed in the week.
away.
Yeah,
It might
that's
be
right.
the first time Villa Park could kind of reflect on Doug's passing. Okay, you're walking out that tunnel and you're turning right and you're going down the Trinity Road track for the first time, applauding the fans. Just give us a sense of what that feels like for the little boy who's loved Aston Villa all his life.
Yeah, I mean, it was funny leading up to it. I was like, I've been talking to my best mates, and how can I change anything that just makes it look like something's new here, something's happening. I remember speaking to Sharon Barnhurst about the walk-on music. I was going to try and get The Bells Are Ringing, because that was my favourite Villa song. They don't sing it anymore, but I used to. Can we get The Bells Are Ringing on the? And they actually couldn't do that, so I just forget it. Let's just concentrate on the game, kind of thing. And Doug had passed during the week, and I wasn't sure whether me getting the job had made him pass, or whether he thought Villa were in safe hands at the time, being a Villa fan. But I remember walking out and knowing I've got the North Stand, then Trinity Road, Whitton Lane, and obviously, or Doug Ellis, I should say. I always called it Whitton Lane, but and then the Old End. So I wanted to clap them, but then, there was a line of ex-Villa players along the touchline, and so my first ever assistant manager at Walsall was Chris Nichol.
Yeah.
Chris used to do he was doing the press, I think.
Yeah,
at
the press association.
The press association. And I used to, when I was youth team manager, I used to have a chat with him in the room, having a cup of tea before the game. And when I took the job, I thought he could help me here, and he was brilliant. So he was the first one I saw. So I ended up giving him a hug, and then I saw Pat Hurd, gave him a hug. So, and Sid, and because I'd been fortunate at Walsall, I'd played with Gary Shaw.
Yeah.
Gary Shaw came and played with us. Des Bremner played with us. Through Pat, I'd got to know Sid and Tony Morley and Alan Evans and people like that. So, it was seeing a lot of old faces that I obviously knew and I looked up to. So, I probably forgot to clap to a few parts before the game, but, he was a great feeling. I knew how it was going to be for me, mum and the family as well.
Yeah. So I suppose it was a bit stop-start, wasn't it, for the first couple of months? We might as well. That now seems the right time to talk about that 10-game winning run. We got probably a couple of months ago. Big Al, the masseur.
Yeah, Big Al.
We went to his. I don't know where he lives, somewhere near Bourneville, I think, and we interviewed him in his little man cave.
Yeah.
And he was saying it was the Rotherham game. Obviously, I think Tammy missed the penalty. Tyrone Mings was sent off. I can't remember who equalised now, but I know Jack scored that kind of that wonder goal to win it. He said that the dressing room had a sense that something special was happening.
Yeah.
Did you start to believe that early, or?
Yeah, I knew we were on a roll at that time. I mean, the games that we'd played, Jack had come back and he in the Derby game, scored that goal. We were outstanding that first half and against them, and then the Blues game the following week where Jack scores the winner. After the incident that had happened, and there's a funny story about that actually. Not many people know this though. When Jack scores and he runs into the Villa fans, Suso is with the Villa fans there because what had happened earlier, he's gone mad in the director's box and ended up with the Villa fans.
Oh, right.
So there was Suso and a few of our staff members right at the front where Jack was celebrating.
I think what's the fitness coach? Ollie was in there as well.
Ollie was there. Ollie,
Suso
Suso and a few others, which was quite funny. But then, we were on that run. I think the Saturday before was probably our toughest game. We played Steve Bruce Wednesday away. And we struggled, certainly first half. Jed made a penalty save, and then we scored 2 late goals. And I think that's when everybody started believing a little bit. We knew we had Rotherham then on the Tuesday or Wednesday. And going into that Rotherham game, we felt it was a game that we could win. And all of a sudden, there's 5 or 6 games on the spin. And we were then in the mix. And then all them incidents went off. But it was probably one of my team talks where I had the most clarity. I think I got my first ever yellow card then as well for complaining about something.
That's not your. That's not you. You'd have got enough when you were playing. You weren't like Gary Lineker throughout your playing career.
No, I certainly got enough when I was playing. But I remember got a yellow card. I can't remember who the referee was. He's refereeing in the Premier League now. His brother referees as well. Andy Madley. Andy Madley was the referee that game. He gave me a yellow card. So Tyrone gets sent off. Well, Tammy had missed a penalty, and we hadn't been great. But I think I brought off one of the wide players, put Millet on at centre half straight away, and went 4-4-1. I think there was about 5 or 6 minutes to half time, and then we got him for half time. 3 minutes before half time, I pulled Codge, and I went, "Get ready, you'll be going on start the second half." I knew that I was going to go 4-3-2. 4-4-1 was just to get us through to half time, and then I would change it. And I just had that clarity that, I think Tammy and Codge could take care of their back four. I've got 3 midfielders with Connor, John and Jack, who could cover the width of the pitch. And as a back four, we were steady then. And the players were all a bit down. I just lifted it. Whoa, what are we down about? We're still in this game, 1-0 down. The quality that we've got in this room, this is what we're doing. We're going 4-3-2. The front 2 play on the outside of their centre-backs. Make sure midfield 3 cover the area, and they were brilliant second half. John McGinn was like a man possessed. He almost made it like 11v11 again. And the goal that Jack scored and the penalty that we won for Codge took the penalty and scored as well. Which, I know I'm fast forwarding a little bit here. When penalties came up at West Brom, he was Marco Jackson back down into the dressing room when the penalties came about. He didn't want to take one. But yeah, it was a game that once we'd won that game, there was a feeling that this could be it.
You touched on the Blues game, and I was at St Andrews in the press box that day, and the thing that struck me again, it was probably you. I felt you were quite statesman-like in that post-match presser, because we all know the story, and it was like a Hollywood script to me in terms of good triumphing in the face of evil and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I thought what struck me about that was how you managed to find a level where I think you said something about it's not just the one idiot who's done it. There were several thousand or whatever who were kind of egging him on. And I thought, Christ, well, you've still got to get out of this stadium, Dean. But it was almost, I don't know, I just liked the way you handled it very firmly, but without, inciting anything more.
Yeah.
I mean, what was that like as a manager, knowing that one of your players has been put through that?
I probably felt most nervous before we played Blues for the 2 games because I knew what it meant to so many. I didn't want to be the manager that lost against Blues, to be honest. So, that 4-2 win at home and then that away game. I mean, listen, what happened should never have happened. It should never happen on the football pitch. And listen, we have our rivalries, but we have to respect each other still. And I just felt at that time. I wasn't happy with the security at the time, how it had happened. I've got a lot of friends who are Birmingham City fans, and we have a good crack as well. And, it was just one of them things that shouldn't happen on a football pitch and happened. And that at the moment, there could be a rivalry coming back with the owners that they've got in charge there now. But yeah, they were the two most nervous games I've had.
And Alan Hutton's goal at Villa Park, is that something you taught him?
Oh, what a goal that was, dear me. Yeah. I mean, because it was swaying, they took the lead, and then they could have gone 2-0 where Adams hit the post. And then we came back really, really well. But it was to and fro, and it was end to end a little bit. We had more control in the first half, and they kind of counted on us than we did in the second half. The second half became a little bit too much end to end, but that Alan Hutton goal was. I mean, I was annoyed with him after the game because he jumped in the altered and got himself yellow carded, so he couldn't play the next game. It's funny what you remember as a manager. I remember the goal brilliantly, but then what are you jumping in the fans for and taking your shirt off or whatever? You got another yellow card. That was his fifth, and we missed him for the next game then.
I bet you've forgiven him since, haven't you?
I think I have, yeah. I think, yeah. The next game might have been Forest 5-5, was it, or something like that? I think.
Oh, blimey, yeah. There's so many to go through. I was going to say, so that winning run has been like the energy that's propelled you towards the playoffs. Let's take you to that second leg at the Hawthorns now, because fair play, I thought the atmosphere that night. I've never heard the Hawthorns that loud.
Yeah.
To be honest, and I think one of the most vivid kind of iconic images is after the penalty shootout, the one more. I think it's the one more. Presume it was one more game, wasn't it?
One more game, yeah.
So just talk us through the reflections, probably of that playoff semi-final and of the penalties and.
Yeah, as you say, I mean, we'd been warned that we was going to get a welcome when we got to the ground with the coach, that their fans was all going to be outside, but yeah, you expect that. It's their rivals as well, and as you say. The Hawthorns was banging that night. They had a proper atmosphere there. I was really annoyed that we got beat on the night. Yeah. How I got a loss that night on my record, that probably tainted it a little bit because, we weren't. I remember we should have had a free kick for the throw-in, and they scored from a long throw-in. And I'd had to go at the ref.
Dawson who scored a header.
Dawson scored a header, but it should have been a free kick. I think there was a push on Tyrone. Tyrone got pushed, and he ended up putting the ball out for a throw-in because he got pushed, and they ended up scoring for him. So I was annoyed at that. But then second half, we played all right without really creating big chances. But I always look back. You look back at the stats. I think over the two games, I think we had 40 attempts on goal to their 12. It showed you that we should have gone through without penalties. But it was a great atmosphere, and when it went to penalties, we'd prepared. I was good with Jed. Jed was in a really good place at the time. He'd made that terrific save in the first game. He touched it onto the crossbar, and he was in form. So, and the penalty takers, again, going back to Melee, perfect penalty record.
Looked frightening, didn't he, when he stepped up?
Yeah, and I put him on. With a minute to go. He hadn't touched the ball. That was his first touch of the ball. But yeah, really good penalty. John McGinn's never forgave me for giving Albert the penalty and not him.
Albert was the only one who missed, wasn't he?
He was the only one who missed, which I think he would have won it as well. And it all went down to Tammy. But yeah, it was it was great knowing we'd won, but I knew then we were going to Wembley, and whether it was going to be Derby or Leeds, it was going to be a tough game.
What do you think about the death stare from Jed Steer on Mason Holgate?
Yeah, I'm never too sure whether that's just a camera angle or not, because that's not in Jed's nature. But
mind you, that is, I mean, obviously he played some good football for Aston Villa, but that's cemented his place in Villa folklore, that as well. It's all about moments, isn't it?
It is, and was it Callie got injured against West Brom, I think it was, when we lost 2-0 at home. And we pulled Jed back. We'd pulled Jed back already, and Jed ended up playing against Stoke the next game and done really well and kept his place then from then on.
So, okay, so it's the final. It transpires that it's against Derby. Did you know we were going to win that day?
Yeah. No, I did. It's bizarre. I think, my 3 years at Brentford as well, learnt an awful lot about how other people can see the game as well in terms of stats. And, and in my head at that time, if we played Derby on a neutral ground 100 times, we would probably beat them 95, 96 times. We'd beat them 3-0 away, we'd beat them 4-0 at home, just on the back of a 10-match winning run. Then drew against Leeds, changed the team against Norwich because I didn't want anybody getting suspended for the game against West Brom. And I just felt that if we turned up and we played, and that was the key, making sure lads were relaxed and understanding this, that we would win the game. And we stopped in the Hilton, right next to Wembley. I think the year before they'd stopped a little bit further out, Landmark, I think they'd stopped at. And I wanted to be close to the stadium, and it wouldn't be that too far to get in there. Not much to think about, get in there, play and whatever. And the staff, we went for a run in the morning and we done a couple of laps down Wembley. And then me, JT and Neil Cutler and JT sat outside Costa, looking up at Wembley Stadium at 8 in the morning having a coffee. And there was people arriving and there's some Villa fans like, what are you doing? Just sat here having a coffee at 8 o'clock in the morning. And JT had said to me, he says, why are you so calm? He said, and I told him that story. I said, listen, if we turn up and play, we'll win.
So is it how difficult is it though when you've got the hopes and dreams of 40,000 are inside Villa Park every week, but tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of Villa fans worldwide. And there must have been people tapping you up for tickets and all the press that you've got to do and stuff like that. Are you quite good at kind of compartmentalising stuff and blocking that out and staying kind of laser focused?
Yeah, that's one of my strengths, that I can compartmentalise stuff and I don't take the stresses home. Once I get home, I'm a husband and a dad. Not the Villa manager, not the Brentford manager, not the Norwich manager. I'm very good at that, and I can't worry about what everybody's thinking, all the Villa fans, and what I can imagine what it'd be like if we win, but I can also imagine what it's going to be like if we lose. But my sole energy is towards making sure these players are right, making sure the staff are right, to go and perform, to get the result.
So what you're allowed to say about the celebrations of the party, or is it what happens on tour stays on tour? Or?
Well, not really, because I think everything was videoed, and put out there, wasn't it? I think it was a big bar bill, I know that. But yeah, it was at the Hilton, and with a few songs. I think the DJ finished and John McGinn and took over then singing, and yeah. To be honest, I think it was midnight, and I'd said to the missus, "Come on, let's go." They were stopping. They were stopping near Hyde Park, and I hadn't actually decided what I was going to do because you don't know what the result's going to be. I was like, right, do I go home straight after? Do I book in a hotel? So I ended up going back to the hotel where my family were all booked, and we went back and had a few drinks there. It was about all close family and friends. Family flew in from America. My son flew in from America, was flying back with his what is now his wife, and my daughter, I think she was 15 at the time, and she had a few drinks as well, and she was sharing with my wife. So the night I won, I ended up in the bedroom with my wife in a single bed, and my daughter wanting to talk because she'd had a few drinks for the first time all night. And then got up in the morning, and me and my mate and my brother went for an actual walk around Hyde Park, and surreal, just talking about what had happened that day before, and what was going to happen moving forward.
So, I mean, it seems like a good opportunity to talk a little bit about, I won't pry too deeply, but about family. So, obviously, your lad now plays football in the States. Are you missus and your daughter, are they football fans? Have they been forced into that? Do they resent it because it takes over the life?
No, they're football fans. My wife's a football fan. Her and her brother have always been Villa fans as well. And my family tree just doesn't allow you to not be a Villa fan. My son and my daughter, I think their first birthdays, they always get a Villa kit. Yeah, they got a Villa kit straight away, and so they're Villa fans. And I actually, when I came back, my son was like, he came back for a week, and he said, "I'm going to Basel So that was it. I was like, I'm going to have to take my brother, aren't I? So we went over to Basel as well last week to go and watch the game. So that was a bit of fun. And it's nice actually going to games as a fan now, rather than having the pressure of being a manager. Going back and being a fan again, he's great at the moment.
Was that a proper fans away day? You have a few beers and stuff?
Yeah, I had a few beers. Yeah, I'd kept away from the main villa. Obviously, we flew in from Stansted and. There was loads of Villa on the flight. I had a load of photos with them, and then we get there and there's a flight coming in from Gatwick. That's all Villa. There's a flight coming in from Luton. That's all Villa. So it was like, yeah, we'll go and have a few beers with mates, but keep away from the main group.
Was that because of you, flag? In honour of you, was it, that I saw you posing with? There's a flag that said because of you.
No, so. They had a group of my brother's friends, and they've got a Villa song they sing. Remember the song "Because of You"?
Oh, is that from the theme tune to Brushstrokes in it?
Yeah. and they sing, "I love Villa, you love Villa."
Oh, right.
So they've got a song to it for the Villa. So that's their flag.
I thought that was you've done yourself down. They said, of course it was because of me. All of this is because of me.
Would you believe as well? His name is Dean Smith.
Oh right, blimey. Can I just talk about the situation with your dad? Because obviously, I think after you kind of won at Wembley, I think in your post-match presser there, you were talking about your kind of dad's. Your dad was still with us then. Dad's battle with dementia. I don't know. I don't want to probe too deeply into kind of personal emotions and stuff, Dean. But how was that kind of managing the kind of, I suppose, the deterioration of your dad's health at the same time when your career was.
I did. Again, I think one of my strengths of compartmentalising stuff helped me deal with my dad, probably a lot more than my mum and my brother. Yeah. Because I would go and see him in the home and have a laugh and a crack with him as much as you could. Yeah. He didn't understand too much at that time. But I did literally go to him 2 days before the final and said, "Listen, next time I come and see you, I'm going to be a Premier League manager of Villa." And, it was a shame that he never understood that that I was a Villa fan. The Villa manager, because I know how proud he would have been. I mean, geez, he was proud when I was playing for Leyton Orient and Walsall, and, so... it was one of them moments that it was tough for the family, obviously, but, he was... Anybody who's been through that disease or knows somebody, most people do know somebody now, it's really tough to handle, but... it was one of them things that we just had to deal with, and went and visited him once a week in the home, and Mum would go most days and say, "Oh yeah, he understands what we're talking about." I wasn't sure what he did, but that gave her a bit of comfort.
And how nice was that tribute when he passed with the steward's jacket?
Do you know what? It was incredible. I mean, they put the steward's jacket in the old tent. I mean, the funeral itself was. I probably let myself down a little bit because doing his eulogy, I hadn't really planned it as well as I should. And I actually did say, I said, I think my dad will excuse me, because I am thinking about, how to stop Traore of Wolves on Saturday, rather than burying my dad. But, the funeral was incredible. Villa, my mum wanted to drive around Villa Park because, my dad was brought up in Webster Street in Aston. And all the staff were outside. We pulled up at my mum's house, and the road in Great Bar was just full of Villa fans, and it was a really good thing for me mum to give her, me dad a good send off, but me mum to be proud of me dad as well.
And I've never met your mum or your dad, but there's
a video of it.
That's what I'm going to reference. That clip. I think that was before the playoff. Final, if I'm right. I think somebody's vox popped her down.
I think it was just after the Leeds game, wasn't it?
And just brilliant. I mean, does that encapsulate her? Well,
it does totally. Anybody will tell you who's met me mum, that encapsulates that. And I'm like, Mum, what are you doing? Why are you doing? You shouldn't be interviewed. And it was something like, I'm a Villa fan, support me son, and dear me, and that certainly captures her in a video straight away.
I think she was saying that she had to end up dog sitting for away games and stuff. Is she having to do that while you're in the States now? Or?
No. Unfortunately, my dog passed as
bless.
well, last year. So, I end up dog sitting for my son now in the States. He's got one out there. But yeah, I mean, I think she just come out of Quick Save and had a Quick Save plastic bag in her hand as well, at the Scott Arms.
That's it. I think you've seen you described as the great bar kid. And
Yeah.
she must be like the great bar, I don't know, woman of the people or something
I
like
think,
that.
yeah, she should have run for council or something, shouldn't she? Dear me, would have been in trouble then.
True to your word to your dad,
Yeah.
you now find yourself as a Premier League manager, and I suppose that was a bit of a strange season because you've got to rebuild quite quickly and quite significantly because you've got a lot of loan players and people coming to the end of the time and stuff. What kind of challenge was that? Because you probably can't take, other than that walk around Hyde Park, you probably can't take too much time to dwell, can you?
No, I mean, I think that morning I got a call from Christian. Listen, we need to meet tonight. Can you come to Villa Park first? Because all the staff who were at Villa Park would like us to go there with the trophy. We had to do some press in the tunnel, and then we went for some dinner. Me, Christian, and Suso to discuss, plans moving forward. So this is the next day, and then 2 days later, I had to pull in 6 players and release them as well. Mark Bunn, Mile Jedinak, Alan Hunn, Albert Adoma, Tommy Elphick. Glenn Whelan was in Dubai, so I couldn't get hold of him. So I had to. I remember chasing his agent because I needed to speak to him. I wanted to do it personally. So that was tough, having celebrated success with them. But I knew that going into the club that there was a lot of contracts that were running up at the end of the season that, had to be decided on. And getting to the Premier League, then we needed to bring some other players in, and then we had to go down to London and meet Nazef at his office in London and give our plans of what we wanted to do. And I think we had to bring in 13 players. I think we brought in, I think we spent 125 million or something, which in the Premier League, 13 players under 10 million average, really, it's not a lot. And I knew that first season was going to be really tough to stay up.
So let's talk a little bit about Jack Grealish, because obviously Jack Grealish was instrumental in the winning run to get you into the Premier League, but also instrumental in those couple of years staying in the Premier League and consolidating. You inherited a fairly talented lad anyway, but you made him captain, and that's almost kind of cemented this kind of the two Villa fans. There's a few more people involved than that, but the two Villa fans leading Villa back to the promised land. So tell me what he was like to manage.
My relationship with him still goes on. What a really good human being, first and foremost. Has he got himself in trouble at times? Yeah. What teenager doesn't? What young man doesn't? But because of who he is, I suppose it gets becomes a little bit bigger sometimes than it could be. Did he need a guiding arm at times? Yeah. But had a will to win. It's such talent, but such a will to win as well. I mean, there's a few times I've had to calm him down on a training ground because he'd go off at some refereeing decisions by JT or Rich, and sometimes he wasn't happy with the standards of the other players around him. But 5 minutes later he was back to Jack again, and really enjoyed working with him. But again, and it's true, the first conversation I had with him, pulled him into my office and showed him against Preston, I think it was. And, at that time, I think he'd got 1 assist, no goals. And I think I took over 14 games into the season, something like that. I went, Jack, you're not going to go and do the things that you want to do in a career unless you improve your stats. And I had to make him understand that. So he scored against Bolton. I think he made a run. Tammy put him through, and he scored against Bolton in my 4th game. Scored a header against Blues. Scored a header against Bolton away. I think they're probably his only 2 headers he scored. But all of a sudden, he started to take notice that he had to start producing in the final third. For the quality of the player that he had, and I couldn't be prouder to see what he's gone on and done. And people still will criticise that. did we lose him a little bit as a player at Man City? But look at what he did there. Look at the trophies he won there. And I can only be proud of him as a lad and from a wonderful family. And he's a family kid as well. And I suppose my only disappointment for him was the return he got, when he came back to Villa. I still believe there should be a statue of him outside the academy building. Somebody who came through as an Aston Villa fan and got sold for 100 million to help the club become where they are now.
It'd take a lot of bronze to do those calves, though, wouldn't it? If you're sculpting that statue.
He certainly would, yeah.
Tell us your take on this Brecon Beacon story then that McGinn and Grealish like to giggle about.
It probably started way before that. I think something may have happened where Jack got the curly finger into my office, and it was always, listen, Jack, don't mind you going out, but don't bring trouble to my door, and don't let me find out about it. That was the biggest thing. If I find out about it, you're in trouble. Because listen, every club in the country will have players that will go out and you need that because you need to build up a spirit within that group and that team for the players to get on and understand each other. We'd gone to Brecon Beacons and I knew the lads, Premier League players were taking us up Brecon Beacon. I just wanted to get them up there, do something that they don't normally do. Camp and be a lad again. I think Jack and John McGinn had worked out that we were about a mile from a pub in a local village, and I think the story he told me about 3 months later. He said, you said, don't let you find out. He said, well, you didn't find out this one. And apparently a few of the lads were meant to go with them and didn't. I was impressed that they actually walked a mile in the dark. I must admit, from Brecon Beacons, walked into the pub in their Aston Villa training kit, and apparently it was card behind the bar. If you tell everybody not to speak about this, I'll buy everybody drinks all night, and that's what they did. He was angry when he had to get up at 5:30 in the morning. I remember having an argument with Tommy Jordan, head of media, which was good fun. But that was one of them things that I love in players as well, because I would half expect players to do it. They don't do it so much now, I think that brings a spirit within the dressing room for sure.
Wasn't it? Did Shaky hear some noises that they made or something?
Yeah, they were doing some wolf noises or something like that outside Shaky's tent, bless him.
So that first year in the Prem, I suppose it's unprecedented, isn't it? The fact that it was disrupted towards the end. So I suppose let's talk quickly about Man City in the final.
Yeah.
Is that one of your biggest regrets that we couldn't? Listen, I know you thought David versus Goliath in that final, but is it one of your biggest regrets that you didn't have a trophy to show for that? Yeah.
I mean, because the League Cup's big to Villa, they've won it. One of my first memories was the win it in '77. Second replay at Old Trafford, Chris Nichol scoring, Brian Little. So that competition was big, and I was gutted that it was Man City who'd got. I actually fancied us to beat United if United had beat them, and Man City was going to be hard. Disappointed that they scored from a corner that shouldn't have been. It's amazing what you remember. Poor marking in the box. But if we'd have held out, then who knows? Alisson Mata scored the header to get us back in it, and Engels hit the bar. I think it was the last minute, or keeper pushed it onto the bar, and so it was disappointing. But there was a funny story about 20 minutes before the end. I was standing with JT on the sideline, and we were talking about subs, and Keenan Davis was about to come on, and Trezeguet, did Trezeguet start? Or definitely Keenan Davis was coming on. I think it might have been Connor coming on as well. And JT's talking to me, and we're talking about these subs, and I've gone, oh no. He's like, what? I said, they're bringing De Bruyne on. That was just the quality of their squad at the time, And JT's gone, oh God. But I was disappointed. I was proud of our achievements in getting there. We were helped. Some teams played some 21s teams on the way there. Liverpool were in the World World Club Championship. But 2 legs. I mean, that last minute goal from Trez against Leicester at home was amazing. And we give a good account of ourselves, but it was just too much at that time. Man City was strong.
So during COVID, was that like one of the ultimate tests of your man management, when you've got to kind of keep players fit and focused on Zoom calls, and then you're going back to empty stadiums? Was that? I mean, there's no guidebook for that, is there?
No, and I think I've said I think it helped me. It helped me, refocus a little bit about how we were going to approach the last 10 games, because we had a game extra than everybody else. And how I would approach them all. Because the season, as everybody knows, you're playing a game every week, so you're always looking at the next game. And I probably just needed a reset at that time. Just go, hold on, let's start planning a little bit differently here. We were conceding far too many chances in games, far too many big chances, and that was probably my cavalier attitude at the time. That I was trying to win every game, rather than sometimes you need to try and not get beat when you're playing against a Man City and a Liverpool with the quality of the squads that they had at that time.
First game back at Villa Park, Sheffield United, do you think it it crossed the line?
It definitely crossed the line. There's a funny story about it, because my old man's steward jacket was and he was into watches. He had about 40 watches, only worth about tenner or something like that, but... so when the watch didn't work, my mum to this day says, "That was your dad. That was your dad." I don't believe in stuff like that. Obviously, that was your dad.
Well, it proved, but Villa more than deserved to stay up on our own merits, but it was a big moment.
Yeah, I just go back to Crystal Palace in the 4th game.
Got all these locked away, haven't you?
Yeah.
Okay, West Ham away. I think Roy Keane had a little bit of a pop, didn't he, by saying, imagine if they'd won something. But when you think about the size of the football club and what it means for the staff who work there, not just the footballers, you kind of had won something really, hadn't you? You'd achieved something anyway. Yeah,
massively. And the achievement for any club, I don't care what the size of it is, once you've got relegated to the Championship and coming back up, is survival. You've got to survive in the Premier League. Villa ended up 3 years, I think, in the Championship, and that's why the work that Unai's doing now is so good, because the $500 million behind the top clubs, people don't actually understand that. You're playing catch up all the time to, with these top clubs, and so survival was the biggest thing for any 3 clubs that come up, and it had to be the last game of the season, or the last 4 games of the season, because the first 6 games of that didn't probably end up as we wanted it to.
That West Ham game, was that like a throwback to the old transistor radio days when you're looking at phones instead, trying to get those those updates?
My first year in management, Walsall, we played Southampton away, final game of the season, and we had to match, I think it was Dagenham and Redbridge's results, and I'd sent Martin Ling to go and watch that game for me. And Southampton had to win to get promoted, and I remember 10 minutes to go, they put Oxlade-Chamberlain on, and he curled one into the top corner to make it 3-1. So I'm on the phone to Lingy, what's happening? And he was like, he said, listen, I'm in the car. You're all right? They're 5-1 down at Peterborough, I think it was. So yeah, it was similar to that. I mean, Jack scores the goal, and you're like, yes, because I knew what was going off in Watford were getting beat at Arsenal, and that was the big one. I think Bournemouth were getting beat at Everton. So we knew what the scores were. And then, unfortunately, a deflection ends up lobbing Pepe Reina, and we ended up getting through with the points, and we knew, I had to wait for the finality on the pitch for the result to come through.
Following season, it's a season of you've survived season of consolidation. I've got a bone to pick with you, because there's only you, Jack Grealish, and Ashley Priest. You're the only 3 Villa fans who are allowed inside the stadium. You save your best season, and none of us buggers can see it.
Yeah, I know. It was a tough one. We're not having the supporters there. Beating the champions 7-2, and being on telly but no fans being there. And...
I think that's like how they say that the moon landing's faked. I think that still seems surreal to me.
Don't tell Ollie that. He got a perfect hat-trick. Even though he'll tell you he should have scored 5 that day as well, which was a surreal game. But yeah, it was surreal at the time, but it was surreal for the country, for the world, going through that period. And, the government at the time pushed us out there as footballers. Oh yeah, keep everybody happy at home. Put something on telly for them. So it was a little bit surreal. But I remember Moisey saying to me that up until January we were the best team in the league, and I wouldn't disagree with him. We were outstanding. Man United and Man City had finished Europe late, so we couldn't play the first game of the season. So we ended up playing Sheffield United first game, and then we went to Fulham, beat them 3-0. Then we beat Liverpool, then we beat Leicester away 1-0. So all of a sudden we're 12 points in from everybody else had played 5 games. So we was always in the top 3, top 4. And then we had the COVID hit us. I think it was Man United away. We had temporary dressing rooms, and I remember going there. It was it might have been 28th of December, something like that. It was freezing, and they had these heaters in there. Yeah, it was a COVID melting pot. You're just thinking, should we really have these heaters in here? That they're flying around. I think Dougie Luiz got COVID, and then so many others, and then we ended up having to play the kids against Liverpool in the FA Cup because everybody was ill. And then our next game was Man City away, and I remember Matt Targett playing that game, and he hadn't trained. First time I got sent off that game.
That was the juggling balls one, wasn't it?
That was the juggling balls.
Still haven't worked out that rule that cost you that goal. To be
nor
honest.
have I. And we'd played well that game as well. So it was a disappointing one. And then we were chasing results after that. Then we should have won at Burnley. We lost 3-2, I think, or 2-1. Jack went on amazing and nearly scored a goal of the season, won again. But we played really well in that game, should have won. And we had a scrappy win away at Leeds, 1-0. Fell away a little bit January, February, March. And then come back and beat Tottenham away and Chelsea at home last 2 games.
Was that Liverpool game? You referenced the 5-1 at Liverpool against Liverpool back in the 70s. I should imagine it had a slightly different feel about it, didn't it?
Yeah, it was a slightly different feel because there was no fans. I mean, I remember Jurgen just saying "wow" to me at the end when he shook my hand. Wow, and we've always had a beer after the game with Jurgen, and he was like, didn't know what hit us there, I mean, we scored like 3 deflected goals.
Yeah, he was.
It was one of them days that kind of everything went for you. But even at 6-2, I still didn't think the game was over because of the quality that they had and how quickly they could hurt you. But we missed a load of chances as well in that game.
Can I ask you a little bit about the players that were on the journey with you that have managed to step up every time Villa have got into the Conference League, Europa League, Champions League? And these people who you brought to the club or people you work closely with. So I'm talking John McGinn, Tyrone Mings, Ezri Konsa, Ollie Watkins, Matty Cash. I don't know whether I've missed anybody out. That Emi Martinez, that must give you an enormous sense of pride when you see that those guys stepping up every week.
Yeah, it does because, a lot goes into recruitment and, every sporting director, every manager will tell you that not all of them are going to come through. I was lucky to know a few of these lads and work with a few of these lads before, so I knew they had their ceiling hadn't been reached with developments, and we bought in players with potential to go on and be better, and a lot of them weren't Premier League ready, but they've grown into Premier League players and established ones and established internationals. I was dancing around my apartment in Charlotte when Ollie scored the winner in the semi-final for England. Seeing Ezri now, who's a shoo-in, I think, for the World Cup in America in the summer. Seeing these players, establish themselves as top Premier League players now because they weren't Premier League ready when we brought them in, but we knew they had the potential to go so much better and so much bigger.
How much of a catalyst do you think Tyrone was when he arrived, first of all?
Tyrone was big for us. We needed centre-backs at the time. We didn't have any. Tommy Elphick was on loan at Hull, I think. We bought Tyrone in from Bournemouth on loan. I think his first game might have been Reading away, 0-0. First clean sheet because, when we played, we won 4-2 against Birmingham, drew 5-5 against Forest drew 2-2 at West Brom.
It's not the hallmark of a centre half, this, is it?
Yeah, so it was good. We bought Courtney Howes as well in at the time, but he had a little bit of injury, so we had to bed him in a little bit slower than Tyrone. But you know, his presence as a person and his physicality definitely helped us.
What did you think when he rocked up at the station with a full kit?
I think he was telling everybody at Bournemouth where he wanted to be the following season, that's for sure.
Quite clear with that. Fast forward, actually, a tiny little bit about McGinn, because I remember I saw you speaking on the documentary that Villa did recently.
Yeah.
Apparently you've got 2 stone lions. One's named after Jack on the right, I think, and one's named after John on the left.
The other way around, because if you remember, I played.
Of course, yeah. With him Jack off the left.
Yeah. And I mean, when we bought the house, the guy had like 2 gorillas in the garden, and he was obviously taking them with him. And I said to the wife, I said, we need to replace those. And she went, I bet 2 lions. I went, that sounds good. That sounds good. So we got 2 big lions and put them up and said, right, Jack and John. And yeah, obviously.
They don't sneak off in the middle of the night, do they?
No, but we'd had so much success, obviously, with them 2 there. And, you know, they were massive in us getting promoted and then staying in the Premier League and actually taking us on as well. I mean, John got injured in that first season and missed the League Cup final, broke his leg against Southampton, you know, and fortunately we got him back for the last 4 or 5 games.
He's a different breed, isn't he?
Unbelievable. What an unbelievable guy as well. You know, give you everything. He used to make me laugh because he hates training. You know, he's one of them ones.
You wouldn't think that, would you?
No. Once he's out there, he gives everything. But he was like, you know, I'm not going out training again, I'll be, you know. But what a guy, what a person from a great family again. That's important. You know, you get to know the families of the players that you've had, and you understand where they come from. And you know, 300 games for Villa, he deserves a lot of credit for that. He's always been a little bit untidy on the eye with his running style, but overlooked for the qualities that he's got.
Outside of Kenny Dalglish, I've never seen a footballer who can use his backside to such devastating effect.
I would agree. I mean, I've said it many times. Dalglish was one of the best to use it, and John McGinn certainly used it. He must be Scottish, mustn't it? Something about that.
We've had the season where you've stayed up, COVID. We've had a COVID-affected season where you've finished 11th in the Premier League. Then it comes to our golden boy, Jack Grealish. I think it was probably inevitable, as much as us Villa fans tried to resist it. He's been vindicated, I think, by what he's gone on to achieve subsequently. That leaves you a big Jack Grealish-sized hole in your team, in your dressing room. Then we've had, I think Christian did his video, didn't he? The holy trinity of Leon Bailey, Emi Buendia and Danny Ings. I mean, that season, you've won at Man United, haven't you?
Yeah.
At the start of that season. That takes some doing. Yeah. Did it go south quicker than you thought?
Yeah, I mean, we'd had a bit of a change as well, backroom team, because Richard ended up, he was going to become the conduit between the first team and the second team to bring some of the players through. At the time, we had like the likes of Carney. There was quite a few of the AJ, JJ. JJ had already come in, but AJ was coming through as well at the time. And we wanted to make sure that they were coming through. Sheikh had come in the previous year. You know, and JT was looking for the manager's job at the time, and we knew that JT might leave. I remember that first game at Watford at home. Not many Villa fans will probably remember this, but I never used to go and do the warm-up on the pitch. But I actually went on and done the warm-up on the pitch because we were too short in terms of coaching staff at that time. And we ended up losing that game with 3-0 down and got back to 3-2. I think if we'd gone on another 5 minutes, we probably got something out of it. But, you know, so it wasn't the greatest start. And then COVID had hit. I think Emi Martinez of Buendia went and played for Argentina and had to come back via a week in Croatia or something. It was like crazy times. And I remember after the first 3 games of the season we beat Newcastle 2-0 at home after the Watford defeat, and then we drew against Brentford. And we always would have a board meeting, and they wanted one after, because it was international break after the 3rd game. And I could tell from the tone their expectations was more than 4 points in the first 3 games, and I was okay. I said to the wife, we need to
just feel it. You can just sense it.
Yeah. Well, why? Well, because Brentford had just come up, obviously. Watford had just come up, and Newcastle had struggled the previous year. So, they're thinking, good start, 9 points. But it doesn't work like that, football. And our next game was Chelsea away, where we actually played really well. We had a number of chances in the first half, ended up losing the game, but then we beat Everton 3-0, then United away 1-0. And, and then we went into... I think the Wolves 2-0 up, that was the one that really killed me. Set piece to make it 2-1 and then deflected free kick at the end to make it, 3-2 and that. Then we had 2 tough games, Tottenham and Arsenal away. Arsenal, first half we were poor, although they shouldn't have been given the penalty just before half-time, which put them 2-0 up. 1-0, we've got a chance because we changed things around. And then, leading into that Southampton game, I knew I had to win that game. Otherwise, I was in big trouble.
I think the one thing, I don't know whether this is any crumb of comfort, but I'm glad that, I'm not sure whether they ever would, but I'm glad that the fans never turn. Because sometimes you lose the away fans, don't you?
Yeah.
But I think that would have tainted your legacy, really.
Yeah. No, I remember going up to them after the game at Southampton and clapping them, and they was all clapping back as well. And I had obviously friends and family who were in there as well, and said, no, they're still with you. But I knew, I'd probably lost the boardroom then.
Is that a phone call from Christian, or is that face-to-face with Nassef? Or?
No, it was I always used to phone Christian after the game and just give him my ideas of why I'd made certain decisions, why I'd made certain subs, because I knew that he would then pass that on to the owners. And I spoke to him on the Saturday. I tried him on the Friday, couldn't get through. Spoke to him Saturday morning, and I knew he told me they were having a board meeting. I said, everything okay? You got my back, kind of thing, and it'd just be a normal board meeting. And then I remember me and my 2 best mates had a few drinks on that Saturday night, because I said, listen, it's coming, but you kind of knew. And I got a text Sunday morning, I think it was, at 10 o'clock. I'm at Poddymoor Heath on my own. Come and see me from Christian. So I was like, yeah, okay. Oh, I can actually remember the song that was playing on my radio as I was going in. It was a bit of Dido. I will go down with this ship.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Oh, blimey,
amazing, isn't it?
Quite poignant.
Yeah.
So, just to wrap up, I mean, there's so many questions that have remained unanswered in my pad, so we might be coming chasing you again the next time you're back from the States. But I suppose just to finish, just to reflect, you must have, maybe not that Dido song and knowing that the axe was falling, but you must have loved every minute of it.
Yeah, I did. I loved every minute of it. It was a club that meant a lot to not just me, but my family as well. And, to get them promoted, mend a few relationships as well, because, Villa Park had become a little bit fractured. And, I'd played on that when I was Brentford manager. You'd come and, starve them of the ball, get the crowd onto them. And so build them relationships. It helped that, I was a Villa fan. I didn't get the job because I was a Villa fan. I'd earned the right to get the job. But having Jack as a Villa fan as well, making him captain, and, the players that we had were great. All of them, played a big part in, moving the club forward and reconnecting. And that was a big thing for me.
Oh, it was a big thing for us as well. And without kind of gushing too much, you were able to, like I say, make us believe again and get us back to the Premier League. And I know you're saying that because of you. Banner wasn't because of you, but a lot of the success we're enjoying now is because you put those foundations in. And it's been an absolute pleasure for you to come into Poddymoor Heath. And,
Poddymoor Heath.
Just wish you and the family a very Merry Christmas. And I know you're supporting Villa from afar, but I know that Villa still beats in your heart as if you were still at Poddymoor every day, I think.
It does. I scratched my wife's forehead when we scored against Arsenal the other day. She was sat next to me. I went to the game and she got a finger mark. So we were all up that day, and I'll be there Sunday watching them against United.
That reminds me of when
Jack with a trophy.
Yeah.
My wife gave him a tissue on the balcony at Wembley to He dropped it. I think Chesney had pushed it and he caught his eye. Yeah, so he had to have a couple of stitches, I think.
Oh, brilliant. No, so you've been watching Claret Blue with me, Mat Kendrick, and the legend that is Deano Smith. It's been an absolute pleasure. Until next time, up the Villa.
Up the Villa.